Hey, welcome to another episode of the Parade Lab podcast with myself, Jerusha, and Sophie. And today we are going to be discussing the Saudi Grand Prix. So I guess, Sophie, before we get into our podium, any hot takes on this race from your side?
It was quite a good one. I thought it was quite exciting to watch in parts. Few good passes, few risky moves,
Mm.
few near misses, few crashes. Yeah, it was quite a good race weekend, I thought. So I'm excited to see what our podium is. I think they might be quite similar.
I don't know. So maybe my experience of watching it was just different because I was on holiday when I watched it, and I watched like the highlights, and it was at like a weird time, and so I just thought it was kind of okay. And so I feel like my podium and my reaction to it is a bit different from yours. Did you watch the whole race, right?
I
And
watched the
follow.
whole race.
Yeah.
I can't say it was like the most exciting one either, but
Mm,
it
mm.
was an enjoyable one to watch. But it was one of the ones that didn't have like many gaps in it. It didn't have did we have a safety car? One safety car or something? It didn't have much action apart from at the very start, and then the end was cool. It
I was about to say that, like turn one,
was
and
very
maybe we'll
excited with
get
the
into, yeah, maybe we'll get into it with the podium. But I thought that
end.
was exciting and surprising to see who was on pole. And so yeah, maybe without going into it, let's get into it in our podium. So do you want to kick us
Mm-hmm.
off with your P3?
I can. My P3 gave me one hell of a fright when watching it, and it was Gabriel Bortoleto very, very nearly crashing into Fernando Alonso. I just thought, oh my God. Number one, that was like really close to crashing. Like they were both very lucky to just escape that. But then after it happened, like in the few split seconds of shock of, oh my gosh, that was nearly a very bad crash. And then you think, oh, hang on, that's his manager. Like he almost crashed into his manager. So I found that quite entertaining. I saw quite a few memes about it afterwards, and it was Fernando saying maybe no dinner for him on the flight
Mm,
home.
hmm.
And when he was asked about it, he joked. And in the cooldown room as well, Oscar said like, "Ooh, it was him. He's on the same flight on the way home. He might have to get a new way home." So I just thought that was very, very lucky, but stressful to watch. But it ended up being quite a funny thing.
Yeah, as you said that, I was thinking about the cool down room comment because I remember that too, with Oscar being like, "Oh, he may have to find another like way home or flight home."
Yeah.
I actually didn't know that Fernando was his manager, and it was only through that commentary that I realized that he was.
Mm,
I didn't realize that you could be somebody's manager while you were literally competing against them. Because obviously, like with
yeah.
Oscar, he's got, I think, Mark Webber, who was a
Hmm.
previous, Formula One driver and is now doing that. But Fernando's on the grid racing against Bortoleto. Like, I was just thinking, isn't there something to do with like conflict of interest or whatever in
Yeah,
doing that? But you can,
you'd think
yeah.
so. I think it's probably quite a rare thing. Um, I saw like an interview of someone comparing that to like you don't see that with football or something. Like you don't
Hmm.
see because it's a past driver or player that's significantly older. And in this case, like they do have the age gap thing going for them, but they're not on the field or the pitch or whatever at the same time. So it's quite rare, but it's also very cool because it shows like that Gabriel has a very good manager because he's still good enough to be there
Yeah.
and be alongside him. But yeah, I wonder if they think about that when they're next to each other on the grid or anything. Like, yeah, that's someone signing
Exactly.
contracts for you. Don't
Really
annoy him.
interesting. Exactly.
Mm,
Yeah. It just gives a bit more insight into like I guess the business of Formula One and things that can
yeah,
happen there. But yeah, no,
yeah.
that was a close one.
I guess it's also such a niche, this sport, that there aren't many people that could coach a current driver in the way that they know how things work.
Mm,
So it's sort of like makes a lot of sense that you've got someone at the level that's able to still compete coaching you because
yeah.
there's a very select group of people who actually can do it.
Yeah.
Mm,
That was a good one. And
mm.
I didn't expect you to put that one there. So that
Yeah,
was
it was one of the ones I was like, oh, should I put it there? Like
yeah,
thinking out,
I
but
wouldn't. I mean,
I
I
like
feel
it.
like we've been sort of doing this now for a few weeks, and I kind of, have a sense of like that's a surprising one. I didn't see
Oh,
you
it's
putting that
good.
one. Yeah, that's
It's
good.
good.
I feel like for the next ones, I've got to think of some ones that maybe would throw you because I think I've been quite obvious with some of mine.
Yeah.
But my P3 is Lando fighting back from P10 to P4 in this race.
Hmm.
Obviously, he was P10 because he did a very classic Lando thing and just messed up qualifying. I feel like sometimes he is his own worst enemy and put himself in the wall and ended up being P10.
Yeah.
And then but it was good to see that you could just see how hard he was trying. He was really, really trying to get into that P3 or get onto the podium too. And obviously it meant a lot to him because this was a race that had a lot on the line when it came to the Drivers' Championship.
Hmm.
And so yeah, I liked that he tried. And there was a lot of, I think there was a bit in that race where it was him trying to overtake Hamilton and then Hamilton overtaking him and then
Hmm.
switching places again and again. And it took him a while to get past. And he was trying really hard to catch up to Leclerc, but just couldn't get there in the end. And so, yeah, I thought that was a good effort from him.
Hmm. Exciting to watch as well. I like it when some of the top guys have to start further back because you just know I mean, some cars they're going to very easily get past in terms of speed advantage, but
Mm,
they do have to fight for it. Like
mm,
they're big machines that they're maneuvering around on these tracks. Like they have to work for it. So it's always fun to watch that happen.
yeah. I thought well done to Lando for trying to get back on top after putting himself in that position, basically.
That's a good one. It sort of relates to my P2,
Hmm.
because that's about Lando. And it was about the media after the race. And
Mm.
so after qualifying, he was upset with how it turned out and his efforts and things. So he's quite critical of himself. But I really liked that after the race, I thought his radio messages were um, quite classy, really. Like everything he sort of said, you could just see the emotion that he had in his voice and what he thought about the race and stuff. It was just it came across more mature than sometimes he does. So it was really nice. And my favorite thing was every team does the post race debrief video. And depending on the race, like sometimes they're a little bit boring to watch. But I really, really liked what McLaren did. And it was, so obviously Oscar won, woohoo. And Lando like interviewed him as part of the
Mm.
post race video, and I thought that was just so cool because it sort of took out the storyline of them battling and they're not
Yeah.
going to be friends because they're battling and that being like a big rivalry thing. Because it was just like, well, they're teammates who get along very well. And then in this video, they're just joking around after a race that did seriously kind of change the dynamic, I guess,
Yeah.
in the team and in the championship. So I just thought the post race Lando did very well. Like he just handled himself very well. And I thought that was really nice to see instead of him maybe getting further into like a negative spiral in all his interviews. And yeah, I think that was the race as well, where because it was so hot, they were all really tired. And people said, like, oh, did you have to work hard? And he goes, nope, just Sunday drive, just pretty cool, pretty chill or something, he said. And it was cool because it was just like humor coming through when obviously he would have been disappointed not to get on the podium. But yeah, I just thought that was quite like refreshing to see from him. So I
Yeah.
thought that was quite a good P2.
I think that that is an interesting one. And also I think that okay, as somebody who is very critical of themselves, I am of myself. I think it's interesting to watch Lando so publicly do that, right? Because then you also
Mm,
contrast it with someone like his teammate Oscar, who is
hmm.
maybe carries his own self-doubt and, feels certain things about his performance, but in the way he speaks to the media about it, you don't necessarily see that come through as much as Lando.
Yeah.
Um, And it's so interesting because sometimes I look at Lando and I'm like, oh, I'm guilty of doing that. Or any of us are, like in a work setting or whatever, where you're sort of beating yourself up about something. But it does give off something to people if you start talking about, there's having a big ego and being self-aware, and those are different things. But I think when you start like putting yourself down too much, it can influence how people think about you and perceive you. And so, yeah, I've noticed that too in the way he hasn't got a full hold of it because sometimes he does go back to it, but you can see that he's really trying to improve. And so obviously he must be working on it. This particular I guess the narrative you are talking about when it comes to yourself and your own performance. So yeah, it's actually very interesting to watch just as like a person.
Yeah, yeah.
And how he manages that, especially as a champion contender with
Hmm.
a teammate that has a very different approach to it.
And people are so critical of it, but if you
Mm.
think about like being in that situation and you've just had a really like bad go of it, or you're upset with how the results have gone, and then someone shoves a camera in your face and you
Yeah.
have to just be normal about it. Like, I think it's cool that he's vulnerable quite a lot, but yeah, I think he said in an interview, he said it quite a few times, like if he does something, people complain. If he doesn't do something, people complain. So I think it's quite cool that you sort of see a bit more of him than just media trained answers all the time, because that gets boring and you don't see personality through that. Yeah,
Yeah.
but just it would be so hard. So people are very critical of him, and him being critical of himself. It's like, well, imagine if you were in his position. I think it would be
Absolutely.
so
I
hard.
think it would be so hard too, because I often
Yeah,
need time just to like feel and vent and like
and process
be
things. Yeah.
exactly process it. And then maybe the morning after, like I often might be like really
Mm,
upset about something. And then the next day I'm like, okay, it's fine. But like you said, if it's directly after the thing where you feel like you
yeah,
didn't do as good and now you've got to talk about it, that is very difficult.
yeah.
Um,
Even knowing their like radio messages are being broadcast, no
yeah.
matter what they say at any point in the race when they're in the car, um, that the stress of that. I
Mm,
mean, sometimes I don't think they're very stressed about it because they'll just swear or whatever, or like make jokes and stuff. But
yeah.
they know that they could potentially be saying that to millions of
Mm,
people and not just their race engineer or whoever's on the other
yeah.
line. Like, yeah, it's crazy to just think about how that would work if that was your everyday life. Like, just everything you say, it would be crazy.
Yeah, it's
Mm,
it's it's definitely a really hard one. It's as much, I think it's
mm,
as much mental as it is physical. Or there's a really very big mental component when it comes to the sport.
definitely.
That was a good one. And also a bit different this week, Sophie. I wouldn't have
Mm.
expected you to put that one in either. So,
Oh, I'm on a roll.
very interesting. I'm
My
very
P1's very predictable.
I know. I'm so curious
So,
about the P1 now. So my P2 was the Williams DRS train, that happened in that race with Carlos
mhm,
and Alex, where they helped each other out to try and make sure that they both finished in the points and that Hadjar didn't overtake Alex. So
mhm,
Carlos was just staying really close to him to help him make sure that that didn't happen. So I thought that was really good teamwork. And also they ended up with both cars and the points. And it
mhm.
was really nice to see Carlos like, find his form a bit with the Williams and get in there too. So that was nice. And I think also he made a comment about how he did a similar thing with Lando, I think a few years back,
I
or he
saw
had to
that.
do that.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
the
so
Singapore one. Yeah.
exactly. So he really understood like the assignment or what he needed to do there. And I thought that was quite sweet.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I like that. Yeah, I really quite enjoy watching the Williams team dynamic unfold. I
Mm.
think they're a very cool pairing. They sort of fly under the radar a little bit at the moment in terms of maybe results.
Mm.
Um, but they're a very cool team to watch. I like lots of what they do. So that's a good one. That's a good P2. I like
Yeah.
it.
It also feels a bit like the story of an underdog. And I really, really enjoy that, where it was like, oh, okay, Williams is kind of coming back now. Can they keep this
Yeah.
up? Like they're doing really well. And they were like nowhere, before or, the last few seasons.
Hmm.
It wasn't really like a team that you thought was going to do that well. And actually, when Carlos said he'd signed to Williams, I was like, oh, I felt for him, and
Mm.
because I wasn't, I just, because he was so good, and you were hoping he would go to Mercedes, or where could he go? Where could he take the second seat? And it was like
Mm.
Williams, and he did say in his interview that when it got released that he wanted to be part of something where you can also get them back to a position that's really good, right? And take a
Hmm.
team that's maybe not doing so well and then get them up to a good performance. And so yeah, that is actually something really cool to be a part of. So I hope they can do that because that seems to be the direction they're going in.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting one to watch. I think they'll just get better and better. Like already, I think
Mm,
he's would be getting more comfortable and everything. So
yeah.
yeah, I hope he does well because it would be very cool to see him be like quite high up the championship standings. It would be you probably won't like it, but I think it would be very cool to see him place higher than Lewis
I
in the
know.
standings. Just as a like, kind of thing. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was my P2. What was your P1 for Saudi?
My P1 is quite predictable compared to the other ones. But it's that Oscar Piastri is the new championship leader, and I'm
Mhm.
very, very excited for him. I just think that is so cool. I mean, I was excited when it was McLaren, regardless, but
Yeah.
I just think it's so cool for Oscar. Yep, we've got
I
the
know
car
I
out
should put,
again.
I think I need to label this Oscar at this
You
stage.
might need
Or
like
the
a
81. Yeah.
sticker. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Maybe swap the sticker out every now and again or something. Yeah, I just think Oscar is just on a very good streak at the moment. Like
Mm.
it just seems like nothing really phases him. He's just doing very, very well. And he's enjoying it, like making the most of it. And yeah, I'm very happy for him. I think it's very cool to have him as a championship leader. I think it's amazing that it's an Australian leading the championship as well. Like that's a big deal. That hasn't happened in many, many years. So I think it's cool for a Southern Hemisphere person
Mm.
to be up there. And I mean, you look at his career so far, and like, he started in remote control racing. Like that's how he started. When everyone else did karting, he did remote control car racing, and then he did karting, and obviously was very good. And then he won Formula Three, Formula Two. Like he's very deserving of being in Formula One, but he's really, really proving it. And because he's still only third season in, and he's doing very well. Yes, they've definitely got the car advantage. Like everyone's making a very big debate between, like, is it Oscar or Lando's year?
Mm.
Um, and lots of people are saying like, oh, Lando needs to step aside. It's Oscar's time. Oscar's better. And then the other argument is Lando's been with McLaren for longer, which he has, and those included some years where the car was not good at all.
Mm.
Yeah, so it's like it's really interesting to see the dynamic of like kind of which way the fans go. But
Yeah.
I just think like regardless, it's so cool for Oscar. So I'm very excited and happy for him. So that is my top of the podium is that Oscar is at the top of the championship standings.
Okay, well that I did know you were going to put in,
Yeah.
and that's actually why I don't have it in
As soon as he
because,
crossed the
but
line.
I do want to talk about that because
Mm-hmm.
I think that's great. I thought it was, first of all, I thought his move on Max, not move, but like into turn one where he kind of like held his place, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and didn't budge. And I don't think Max expected that. So he had to
No.
go off, go off track. And then he didn't give the position back and then got the penalty. And that I think ultimately Oscar said it too. It ultimately helped him win the race because
Mm-hmm.
he was then able to be ahead of Max. And it was from being, just holding his ground against him effectively that he did that. And I think for
Yeah.
me, that's like one of the key things with Oscar is that, especially with when you see him with Max, he holds his ground and he's it's not like aggressive, but he's just
Firm.
yeah, really firm. And I think
Mm.
that I don't know, but I think that's also catching Max by surprise because in a way maybe he hasn't had someone, maybe Lando was the person who was chasing him the last time, and unfortunately the sort of Max Lando thing is that I feel like Max is a bit of a bully with Lando on the track, and he'll do something or like try to push him off, and then Lando will like react, obviously taking reactive action and doing
Hmm.
that, but I feel like when Lando tries to overtake Max, he's a bit more cautious, and also because of things that have happened in the past, where I think they've taken each other out also because of incidents that have happened when they've gotten close.
Yeah,
But Oscar is just a bit different with Max, and I think that's really going to be interesting to see how that plays out also in future races. Because
yeah,
he's actually, like saying, pretty cool, just firm, is gonna go for it, and I don't know if Max knows what to do with somebody like that.
yeah. I saw an interview. I can't remember who it was. And they said basically exactly that Max hasn't had someone challenge him in the way that Oscar does
Mm,
before. I mean, obviously, again, Max is amazing at what he does. Like he's very, very good. But he does definitely he would scare the other people, like because he is kind of like the bully on the grid a little bit. Like just because he's aggressive and he would know who moves out of his way or gives him a bit more room. Like
exactly.
he's come to know that and he's crashed a few times, not so much recently, but
Yeah,
it's happened in the past when people, you know, hold their ground a little bit more. But I think now it's definitely like he probably sees that McLaren of Oscar and goes, okay, that guy's like not going to move because
exactly.
I think
Yeah.
it goes back to Oscar's just not phased by anything. Like I just think he thinks it's another car, and it is. Yeah, I don't think he's like fearful of Max or anything. I think he's just got the good mindset of I'm competing with everyone,
Hmm.
and yeah, it doesn't budge, which must just be like his character. It must just be a lot of just how he is. He's
Yeah.
just it probably doesn't even notice. He's probably just very calm about it. Like, oh, didn't even see him there. Like that's probably it. But yeah,
No, that was great. Yeah, I was really happy for Oscar. So I think that was just yeah, he just really feel it looks like he is, I don't know, finding his stride or just like finding really good form.
yeah,
He just looks like he's on a roll basically now,
yeah,
which is nice to see. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, that was yours. Well, I couldn't not have my number one because I don't know if this will ever happen again. It's been so long. Is that Ferrari got their first podium for the season, right? So
Hmm.
P3, Charles Leclerc, got it. I saw a meme about it where it says like did everything P3. So, he did everything he could and the best he could do is P3, but that's fine because it really was like obviously Lewis got the sprint a podium or one of the previous sprints, but this was like the
Hmm.
first race
Hmm.
podium that they got. And it's been tough. I'm saying being a Ferrari fan this
Hmm.
season. I haven't been a Ferrari fan before, and I've made fun of all the memes and things that were there. But I keep hoping. I'm like, oh, maybe they'll do better, or maybe something will happen with Lewis and it'll be good. And it's just like, no, no, no. So it was good. It was good to just see Charles, and I think it meant a lot to him too that he was able to get on the podium.
Yeah, yeah. It was nice to see that they got a positive result.
Mm.
Overdue, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I was worried. I mean, I feel like Williams are going to catch them at some point because, the way things are going with them for them.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, that was good. And also, I think it helped just with the cool down room dynamic there because did you
That's one of the
after
things
that
that I have
race,
written
did
down.
you after that race, obviously Max was really sulky and upset about the penalty and the fact
Hmm.
that, Oscar ended up winning and he
Hmm.
didn't. And so then it was just sort of like Charles and Oscar having a chat on the side there about the thing and Max just sitting there on the side, not
Hmm.
really saying much at all. So
Yeah, I just wrote Max with his attitude
mm,
in the cool down room. But it was also on the podium as well. Like
mm,
when they started spraying, he just
yeah,
had a drink straight away. I thought that was just so cool. I
yeah.
really liked that because it was just like, no, I'm not celebrating. I'm gonna drink and I'm gonna leave. That's what he sort of like gave off. Yeah. But yeah,
Uh,
awkward cool down room. I mean, they're always a little bit awkward, but I podcast I listened to, they said like it was the most awkward cool down room for Oscar to be at the helm of,
Mm,
because it was like, he doesn't portray himself as much of an extrovert, like um controlling a room in the conversation. So him having a grumpy Max and then Charles in there knowing like all the dynamics.
yeah.
Just watching him like work the room was like a whole nother thing. Like that would have been the hard bit compared to the race that he just
Yeah.
driven, sort of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. I think it
Yeah.
was just him and Charles trying to keep the conversation going
Yeah.
going there during
Yeah.
that session. But yeah, I guess that so that was Saudi. Like you said, a race with some interesting things that happened in
Yeah.
it actually. Maybe overall not the most interesting one, I think, with once uh turn one happened and I think a lot of it was just like, obviously once Oscar got in front, it was
He was
mainly
away.
that. And then Lando doing his overtakes trying to get there and Leclerc holding his position.
Mm-hmm.
But was there anything else on that race from your side before we go to meme of the week?
I do have a couple notes. I thought the trophy was beautiful. I thought it was one of the
Hmm.
prettiest trophies that we've seen. So it was quite a nice one. I mean, you see nice photos of them anyway before the race, but then when you see the ones that McLaren posted and Oscar posted, you just look at the trophy and it was just really cool. Like it was just like
I
palm
need
leaves or
to,
something.
yeah, I need to Google this
It
now.
was really beautiful.
Wow, this is the
I'll put a
prettiest
photo
thing.
on the
Oh, you put
screen,
it, yeah,
but
okay.
I really it was just really pretty, I thought.
Oh, it's kind of like a pineapple kind of
Yeah,
vibe to
because
it. Yeah.
sometimes they're just kind of ordinary looking. But I thought if I was going to win a race, I think I would want that one because
Mm,
I would like to have that on my shelf. It was just a cute one. So that was one of the notes I had.
that's really nice. Oh my God, I wonder if we
Yeah.
should like rank the
I was
trophies.
wondering that.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
think because actually I really like the Hungarian ones, right? Remember Lando
Oh, they are the
broke
most,
it that
yeah.
one time, the one with like the hand painted stuff. That
Yeah.
those are really nice.
Yeah, those are always very, very pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought this was quite a cool one. Yeah, we could rank trophies. That would be a good one.
Maybe
Yeah,
we'll
that
keep
was
an
one of
eye
my
out
notes.
or like think have a comment on the trophies
Yeah.
that are there.
Trophy 0 out of 5. That one was a dud.
Yeah,
This one, this
exactly.
one, this one was a good one though. Yeah.
I did think one thing that was really funny, although it was maybe the meme that I would have chosen, but I chose a different. Oh, I don't know if you chose this one as your meme, and then I'm gonna give it
I think
away.
we might have the same one.
Which is
Maybe.
your? Okay, maybe we should just go straight to meme before
We
I
can
chat,
do
and then we
meme.
can see if there's any extra ones. So yeah,
Okay.
what was your meme?
Okay. My meme of the week. I really like the ones I've done it in the Australia episode before as well. The ones that I think of when I see the thing happen, and then when they pop on my phone, I like those. They're my favorite. So my meme of the week was the cameraman zooming in on Charles at the end. And so when I was watching the race,
Sorry, can we just bring this up?
that is exactly the one. Yeah,
How
so
did you
I'll
know we'd
insert
have
that
the
on the screen.
same one?
It was the funniest thing I'd ever seen.
I saw
Um,
it too.
Yeah, because when I was watching the race, the person I was watching it with, we were like, "Oh wow, that's a really close up shot." Like
That's what I
because you know
thought
that,
too. Yeah,
yeah,
why is he literally in this man's like, I don't know, like
yeah,
eyes, like eyebrows? What's
yeah.
going on? Yeah.
Because the broadcast, you always tend to see close ups of Charles Leclerc's like eyes through his helmet and stuff. But I wrote down that they've been waiting for him for so many races. They took their chance. They saw the opportunity, and they're like, get a camera on that man. Um, yeah, so it was so close. So you sort of thought you you sort of thought that they were zooming in, but then, then like half an hour later, you saw the photo released of how close the camera actually was to him. So while he's drinking water, imagine again how weird that would be if this was your life. You're just drinking water and there's a man with a very large camera pointed right at your face, like very close. Um, yeah, so that meme with the tuba on someone's face was just like the most accurate depiction of that you could get. So
That is
yeah,
so
I
funny.
loved that.
that was actually the one I put as my second one. Like, so, but I,
Uh-huh.
so, and that was the one I was going to just chat about now. And I was like, oh, but maybe it could be your one. And it is. So I brought
Yeah.
that one up too. I ended up choosing another one.
Hmm.
Good that I did. Otherwise, we would have had exactly the same one. But I did put that one there. So the one I put had to do with my P3, which was Lando just being his own worst enemy. And it was one
Hmm.
where it was like or a vampire and like the sun or like Superman and kryptonite, these are their things. And then it's
Hmm.
just a picture of Norris and then Lando Norris, like
Uh-huh.
as in, he is his own worst enemy there. And
Yeah.
I thought that one was quite funny, so we'll put
Yeah,
that one
it's
in
pretty
too.
good. It's
Uh,
pretty good.
but
Yeah.
yeah, the zoom in on Charles, I was just like, what is he
Yeah.
doing? And then when I saw the memes and I also saw that picture of the actual cameraman, so you could see
Yeah.
like what was going on. I was like, that is ridiculous. And he didn't do that to anybody else. It was just
No,
it was just Charles.
no. I don't think he moved on to anyone else. I think he stood in front of him until he finished his whole drink. Yeah. My favorite part, I mean, I loved the meme in general, but
Mm.
I saw it on Threads and it was Red Bull that had posted it. So they wrote getting the post race angle with it. Like I just thought that was so good for another team to post
To
that.
do that, that's
Because
cool.
everyone noticed it as it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just that brought me so much joy. I really enjoyed that. It was so funny.
That was
Yeah,
funny. Yeah.
it was a good one.
Mm.
I do have one other note about this race.
Mm.
Um, a little bit of a maybe a question, a little bit of a gripe as well. They on the broadcast have rookie comparison graphics because there's quite a few rookies, right? Makes perfect sense, so you can see in relation to the other ones where they all are.
Okay, just
But
just
every
for the
time,
rookies. Yeah.
yeah, just the rookies. So it includes Liam in that, I think, in the rookies. Yeah, so you've got quite a spread. There was like Bortoleto and Doohan, and then Lawson, and then Ollie Behrman might have been in front of Liam. And then you've got Kimmy. So Kimmy's doing very, very well. So he was in like P5 when I noticed it. And then I think the next one, oh, Hadjar's the other
Hajar
one,
was P10,
would
I
have been
think. Yeah.
P9 and 10. Yeah. So there's quite a gap between Kimmy and the others, and the others are at the back of the pack, sort of thing. Um, and I think that's good to see the comparison of them. But I really think it's not like fair when you think about the cars that they all have, because Kimmy is in arguably a much better car than the other ones. So it's like fine to have them all compared, but then to just say like, Kimmy Antonelli's the man, and he kind of is. He's doing very, very well. But to make it such like an obvious distinction between he's at the top and the rest of them are back there, but they're not on equal playing fields, I feel,
Mm.
for it to warrant it being a continued thing that the other ones are judged on, that they're based they're like compared to him,
Yeah.
who I would say is always going to be near the front in terms of the rookies.
Mm.
And yeah, so when that pops up, I think it's well and good, but it makes me question it a little bit. So I sort of wonder if other people think that way, or I'm overthinking it.
I don't know. I feel like I didn't even notice that it popped up. So maybe I do see a point though, I think. Do you
Mm,
think it's also just because it is their rookie season and so that maybe feels because ultimately
yeah,
everybody gets compared, right? And they are all in different
yeah,
cars. But you've got like Oscar and like Lando and up at the top and then everybody else
yeah.
below. But they're in like the best car for the season. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I guess maybe if they're commentating on it a lot and making reference to it and sort of keep talking about the fact that like Kimmy's doing really well, and maybe not looking at how the others are doing relative to their cars,
Mm,
that's interesting.
mm,
Um, but yeah, this makes me think from like a, I won't say like a mathematical point of view, but like, oh yeah, is there a way for us to take into account like performance, but taking into account like a discount for the car, right? So you have a kind of formula where I'm
yeah,
already like, oh, okay, maybe your car gets this weighting and then where you end up landing and you times it by
yeah.
something. And then that's how you see the actual performance or a proxy of performance if everybody was kind of on the same car, like how are people actually doing? That would be actually quite interesting.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, it is interesting to see anyway, but I I guess it's just because there's so many of them that
Mm,
because there's a large enough group and it's like quarter of the grid that yes, they can compare them and they have enough to put in the graphic. But if you thought like say it was I don't know, any of them that are near the back of the pack and Kimmy,
yeah.
if it was just the two of them in their rookie season, they wouldn't make a graphic of that. You know, one guy's
No.
in P5, one's in
Yeah.
P19 or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I think it's just because there's so many of them
They keep
that
showing that
they
and
sort of
referencing
warrant
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's sort of like at what point will they stop pulling that card out? I don't know.
Maybe at the end of the season. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
Let's
It's just
see.
something it makes me think every time I see it. But yeah, that was
Okay,
just
I'm
one thing I
gonna
thought of.
keep an eye out for that and then
Yeah.
see what I make of it when I see that come up too. Okay, so then I guess next up is Miami. I have a
Hmm.
bit of a break and then Miami's coming up. Um, any thoughts on this race or I guess anything that you're looking forward to, or do you have a prediction for who it might be?
Um, I'm looking forward to the Miami's one of the Grand Prix that's the very like commercial one, we'll say,
Mm,
where you see lots of special helmets, special liveries and things. I think generally it's one of those races you see so many special helmets that are they special at that point because there's so many of them. But yeah, I enjoy seeing that because it's cool when like that was last year Ferrari had the blue livery. Like I hope they do something cool again. It's when they change their suits and their kits
yeah,
that
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like okay, they're really like bringing it. Yeah, so I quite enjoyed Miami for that reason. I think it'll be a good race. I think um, probably another McLaren. It would be cool if Lando could win again to do it like a back to back thing. Because if you think about how much he's progressed since his first win there last year, it would be quite cool to bookend that. But no, I'm gonna just see what happens. But yeah, I hope there's some cool liveries or something out of it. What
Yeah.
about you?
Thinking that it's also a very like you said, a very like kind of like celebrity style
Yeah.
race. You know, there's a lot of that happening. It's also a sprint weekend, right? So there'll be a
Mhm.
sprint race that weekend. So that'll be interesting to see
Mhm.
what happens there with like sprint and then qualifying straight after. Those are usually quite exciting. And
Mhm.
then yeah, like you mentioned, I mean, Miami was a good one for Lando last year. He won his
Mhm.
first F1 race in Miami. So hopefully it can be good for him again. And yeah, I do think he'll really want to win because, you know, now with Oscar having won this, top of the drivers championship, you know, it'll be Oscar with he's got 3 wins now. Max has one, Lando has one. And so, you know, if Oscar wins again, it's like 4 for Oscar.
Pulling
Which
quite a lead.
yeah,
Yeah.
he will be pulling ahead. And so I think Lando would really want to win, you know, just to balance stuff out and then also I think potentially be back in the lead with the championship. So
Yeah.
hopefully that can happen. And maybe Ferrari, although I don't want to say this because I don't want to be a I don't know if I want to be a Ferrari fan for the rest of the season.
You have to stick it
But
out.
yeah, I mean, I'm truly like a McLaren fan, but I'm, you know, adopting Ferrari for this year.
Hmm.
But yeah, I maybe they get another podium, you know, and find some momentum. That would be quite cool. So yeah, hoping for that. Yeah. But I think that's it for this week. So we will see you at the next one.
See you at the next one.